money, Jordan Belfort. Stacking penny stocks while I'm flipping these birds. Sipping on Ciroc, trip 'em up with the words. I done popped the Molly and I think it's be my third.
What's going on, DGen Nation? Kenny Kim here, bringing you another Fantasy Golf Degenerates podcast this week for the Mexico Open. As usual, I am here with everybody's favorite Canadian, Tyler Tamboline. Tyler, we missed you last week. What is up, my friend?
What's going on, Kenny? Thank you. Appreciate Baroff stepping in as always, as he usually does. Just crushes it, so I appreciate that. I like your hat. We'll get to that in a minute. We'll get to the Genesis Open. Shout out Decky. Amazing finish. Everything that went on there. We'll get to all that and more. Before we get into it, I want to remind everyone very quickly off the top, this show is brought to you and presented by ShipItNation.com. You guys didn't know, last week was the big news, so didn't get to fully bring it across, but the merger with Degenerate75, bringing him over, his entire community, all now under one roof at ShipItNation.com. Truly excited about that, and sometimes things are just meant to be. Incredible week for the entire community, over $500,000 in wins. Hoop had a bunch, I had a bunch, but the members really just absolutely crushed. Showdown streets, main slates, everything, MMA, all the other sports. So if you guys want to check it out, go to ShipItNation.com. Now 8 major sports throughout the season with projections, ownership tools, content rankings, etc. You can use DGen15, gets you 15% off anything you have as long as you have it. Kenny, you finally got the hat, my friend. Maybe you had it and I just didn't know it, but I saw it on X. Now I see it in the flesh. What's going on?
Yeah, I wore it last week. And of course, not only did your people over at Ship It Nation have a good week, both of us had a really good week. Mr. Tambo over here finishing third in the Millie Maker. He had a little bad luck with Bo Hostler in the final round that probably could have made him $1 million. So coming in third in the Millie Maker, what was a $4,444 entry for Mr. Tamboline over here. And my betting card had first place and second place, and I bet the second place each way as well. For Willie Z, had the outright in the each way. For Decky, big week, won like $1,800. That's probably more than I usually win when I hit an outright, just because I had both the each ways for both of those guys too. So strong week for the Fantasy Golf Degenerates. This is what you get occasionally. We get shit right. So what'd you think? So the event itself, I loved it. It was good golf. You know what I'm saying? Like, even though my guys weren't even really in contention until Sunday. I mean, Willie Z was up there, but Decky did his thing like crazy, shooting 62 or 61 on Sunday to go in and win. I thought the event was great. I thought the golf was really good. The leaderboard was great. You had like the top guys you wanted to have up near the top. A couple of other guys, just trying to battle their way through. I thoroughly enjoyed the event. The course is amazing. Really, really liked it. The weather didn't cause an issue. I thoroughly enjoyed it. What'd you think of the event?
Yeah, bucket list event for sure. I got to get out to this one. Just every time I watch it on TV every year, I've said it. Anyone who followed me for a long time knows I always class this one in. I always say this is one of my favorite events. I know it's kind of like right after football ends, but all the stuff I say when I'm talking about golf courses and what I enjoy watching has nothing to do with the sweat equity. Like, yeah, I was chasing down trying to win $1 million yesterday. Had nothing to do with that. Always have liked this event. Any of the other ones, it's the same way. Sometimes I'm winning money and don't like the event. Sometimes I'm losing money and do like it. This is a course I'll always love. The Decky round was incredible. I know after he was trying to say something with his translator there, but how he thought he shot a +3. It's like, no, buddy, you literally just about shot the course record. Balionis even called him on it. Was like, what are you talking about, Decky? Come on.
So, now. I mean, basically that's the equivalent, the verbal equivalent of Hideki one-handing an approach that he hits to 8 feet. Yeah, basically, what else do you expect from Mr. Hideki Matsuyama?
That's the classic Decky, too. The perfect shot into the fairway. You see it, you're watching him, like a little sweat on him. You're like, oh, damn, it must suck. Lands to like 5 feet. And you're like, oh, okay then. So that is the verbal definition.
He had 4 approaches on Sunday that were within 18 inches.
Yeah.
4 birdie putts. I'm sorry, 4 birdie. So some of our par 3s where he got there in 2. But he had 4 birdie putts inside 18 inches yesterday.
Wasn't
pretty good.
It's like the bridge, the WGC when he won at Firestone or whatever.
Yeah,
same type of thing. I think that Sunday was like a 62 or
like when he gets like nuclear.
Nuts.
He gets like nuclear. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
but it's awesome to watch. That's why even aside from the cool part, the playoff from Torrey Pines a couple years ago, Willie Z and Luke List were the guys that ended up in second, but it was like Hadwin was up there, Spence and a couple Canadians. You had the guys, Cantlay and X, who, by the way, they were getting called out early on for the slow play on that.
Yeah.
I know people.
And then the PGA Tour tried to underhand it by telling him that they were inside the time, and like the people that were playing in front of them were just playing quickly. That was the excuse to PGA Tour gave during the middle of the show yesterday, and I call bullshit on that motherfucker. Because they know they're not going to call the fucking shit, right? They know they're not going to call any penalties. Jim Nantz was the one that brought it up. I mentioned the PGA Tour like, what the fuck, Jim? Yeah. Why are you bringing this shit up? You know our asses aren't going to fucking, deduct the penalty for these slow-ass motherfuckers. Why would you say shit like that and get the whole fucking crowd ramped up? Now we're going to make some bullshit excuse, which is exactly what they did. Made some bullshit excuse about why they weren't being penalized. Total horse shit. But go ahead. You go.
Well, I was going to say, you said it. Good segue. Speaking of being penalized, how about the Jordan Spieth DQ? Got to get your take on that. Not talking about Dairy Queen either. This was pretty interesting spot. I saw some really good lineups out there that had Spieth in it. That if they had, who knows? He was in there for the weekend. I heard other golfers talk on it. I heard Michael Kim posted about it on X. Nice thread about how he probably saw it going down. And what is your take on that one, Kenny? I was interested.
Well, it was sort of fucked up because what happened was something was going around, sickness, an illness. Tiger had the flu. Cantlay was over 100-degree temperature coming into his round on Sunday. You had Tom Kim running from a late poop to try and just make his tee time on Sunday. You know what I'm saying? Like something was going on in that area. So what happened to Jordan is what I found out is he signed his card, but he had the shit. Like he had the fucking shit. He was in pain. Something was wrong. He was sick. Okay. And so he quickly just filled out signed it, went to the shitter. Okay. Came back and they're like, you're DQ, motherfucker. All right. Okay. So, and here's the thing. Like, I get why people hate this rule. Right? You have people that are making the score. In this situation, it's even worse because like he had to take a shit. And like the only reason he got DQ'd is because he had the shit. Like if he just stayed there, double checked his score like he normally would do, he probably would have figured it out, fixed it, signed it, and been fine, right? But he had the poop and he came back and you're like, too late. Oh, you're fucked. And so I know there was like a big talk about we need to get rid of this rule, blah, blah. I understand your point of view. It makes complete sense in our day and age. But here's the reason why I think we should keep this rule. All right, so golf has changed a shit ton. Yeah, it's just, the first Scottish man hit a fucking ball with a stick, 500, 600 years ago, whatever. Even in the last 100 years, the changes in golf have been incredible. The one thing that doesn't change about the game of golf and what makes the game of golf so different than other sports is the integrity of the game, the honor that you have for yourself and towards the game of golf. There's no other sport in the world where you could be playing by yourself, a single out there playing golf, and you can move your little shit out of the divot in the fairway. You can do a little kick wedge to help your game, but you don't. You know why? Because this game is a game of integrity. This game is a game of honor. Okay, that's really a huge selling point in the game of golf. A lot of fathers, when they're young and they have their sons, they want their kids to play this game because it not only teaches them about competitiveness, it not only teaches them about empathy, it not only teaches them how to lose, how to win. It teaches them honor. It teaches them integrity. It teaches them honesty. Right? This is what the game of golf and why the game of golf is so fucking great. Okay? Now, the one thing, even though that the game is here, you don't see the integrity. You don't see the honesty in professional golf. Like in amateur golf or when you play with your boys, sure. You know what I'm saying? Like you go out there, you play by the rules, your boys are watching, you want to be honest and not cheat and shit like that, right? But like on the PGA Tour, the only time you hear about integrity and honesty is when someone breaks the rules, right? That's really the only time you hear about it nowadays is when somebody breaks the rules. And that's not golf. You know what I'm saying? There's people out there on the PGA Tour who don't, because of the cameras, because of everything, they can't cheat anymore, right? And there's just no way to do it with the cameras and everything on you and the fans. So why people sign their scorecards in the beginning was to avoid cheating, right? Because you're putting your name to something. You're putting your name on that score. You're putting your honor. You're putting your integrity on that scorecard, and you're being honest. This is my score, 100% legit, right? And you sign it and you send it. Really, in professional golf, this is the last bastion of integrity that you can physically see. Now, you don't physically see it, but you know is happening every single round, right? This is the only thing that really caters back to the origins of golf, honesty, integrity, all those characteristics that you want. So in my opinion, I want to keep that just to have something that connects you to how the game started and what the game truly means to a lot of people around the world. I know this is like sort of a long-winded way of saying that I like the way that I think they should keep the scorecard signing. I think if you miss on a scorecard, it's not cheating. It's a mistake. We all know that happens. But I still think you should get DQ'd just because this is the one instance in the professional game at this current moment where we can really talk about integrity and honesty, and it shows and it's apparent and it's a part of the game. Outside of the scorecard signing, I mean, no one's really going to cheat no more. You're sort of forced, to be honest. Forced integrity, right? Because, unless you're Patrick Reed, unless you're, whoever, right? But that's my take on it. That's why I want it. I'll give you another example. How important the game of golf can mean to people, and how that honesty and integrity that you realize can really affect how you live. In my lifetime, as a lot of you know, I mean, I haven't been, especially when I was younger, and stuff like that, I haven't been the most honest. I haven't had the most integrity. A lot of that had to do with certain situations when I was young, a lot of drug use, alcohol use, stuff like that. I wasn't really a good guy in my mid-20s, right? In my mid to late 20s. Lots of drugs, lots of problems, lots of alcohol. Now, I did play a lot of golf back then too, right? And the one thing, I was living in Roanoke, and I had a guy, a friend of mine. His name was Bill, car salesman, older guy, right? Really great guy, one of the best guys I know. And he would give you your shirt off your back, right? Always ready with a beer and a line, right? Okay, he was one of those type of guys, right? I loved him to death. And so we would play golf often. We were playing at Hanging Rock down in Roanoke. This was in 2009, all right? And we're playing for like $5 a hole, whatever. And I have like this really shitty lie or something like that. And I look around and I don't see him, and I, sort of fluff it up, and I find out he's right behind me. He's like, Kenny, what the fuck are you doing? Right? I was like, and like a lot of the times when you play with boys and like you do something like that, your boys, they don't care. But like, this is the first time he'd ever seen me like, do something like this and like cheat when we're playing for money. And like, he wasn't angry at me. He was just like super disappointed. And like, that's like sometimes can be worse than when somebody is angry at you, right? If somebody you respect gets disappointed based on something you do, that sort of makes you feel worse than if someone's just yelling at you, like berating you over something, because in that point you feel you have to defend yourself, right? But like when the guy is just disappointed and you just shake his head, man, I can't believe you would do something like this. You know what I'm saying? Especially a guy you respect. I mean, that shit hurts, right? It makes you sort of think about things a little bit more. So like after that round, I mean, like, it would really bother me. It's like, oh my God, like, have I become the type of person that would cheat in golf on a $5 a hole fucking game? Like, is this who I am right now? And at that point in my life, that's who I was. I was not a good person, right? And so what ended up happening after that is I felt bad, and we were still friends. It was cool, but like that sort of stuck in my mind for the longest time. 6 months later, I moved out of Roanoke, and Roanoke was a problem for me. That's why I had to get the fuck out of there, right? And I knew that for years, but I finally did it 6 months later. And I'm not saying the reason why was because of that round of golf, was because I thought the way I did, and I needed to change what I was going through in my life at that point in time. But I'm sure it had something to do with it, right? I mean, to happen that close and me finally saying, okay, I'm going to get out of here, right? And make my life better and prove who I am. It had something to do with it. Right. And that's how important the game of golf is. That, to some people, and that honor and that integrity and that baseline characteristics that you have in the game of golf is so important. And I think, again, the signing of the scorecard is like the last semblance that you can see, from a pro that that happens every year, that has that honor, that has that integrity. I sign my name on the card. This is for me. This is 100% truthful. I'm being honest here. That's my take on. I know it's long-winded. I know it's very, very nostalgic, right? Old school train of thought, but that's just the way I feel about the Spieth situation. I think if you sign the incorrect scorecard, you get DQ'd. And I know it's not cheating nowadays. It's just clerical error. But still, you're signing your name onto something. And that means something in the game of golf.
Yeah, I would say, first off, the title of the show, Kenny cheats at golf. We're going to make that the title. So people know now that you're a cheater. That's good. We got that out there.
I definitely cheated back then. But, it was like the worst feeling in the world. Like, I've literally felt horrible. I felt worse at that point in time than like the times I've been arrested in my life.
We believe you. You just told us. We got it. The first takeaway is John Rahm was right. They need porta potties on more holes so that Jordan can take his shit before he has to sign a scorecard so he doesn't fuck it up. Back to your point there. The second one, I actually saw it on X, people talking about it within the threads and people posting it. It was all the most serious golfers. So I respect that. Like, it's all the most serious golfers that said what you just said.
They were like, we should change the rule. I agree. Well, I understand the point.
They were saying kind of like a lot of people say what you said. It's like it's your one spot that you can leave it left, that people can sign it. And they because that's how it's always been, they believe in it. What the other side of it was, though, that I saw that just goes against everything you just said is that it's the only there is going to be, no matter what you sign, somebody there to say gotcha. So you can't cheat. There's no way. Like, you can't cheat. If you put the wrong score, someone has the actual score that is going to say got you, and now you are disqualified. Which is the only counterpoint. Well, it is integrity and you're signing for something, and I get it. It really, to my instance, can only be a mistake. When Patrick Reed is sneaking sand out behind his shot, that's cheating. And you should get fucked up for that. When you sign the card and it's clearly a mistake because you had to go take a shit or something like that, should there be a penalty for your clerical error and for making a mistake and not taking it serious? Yes. But are they cheating? 99.99999% no, because they know someone's there to give them the exact score anyway. So then it is what it is. You made a mistake. By the way, dude, you signed the wrong scorecard. But just like Rahm, Deary won the Memorial. By the way, we did see you fluff the ball up 2 strokes. You still win by 2, but it wouldn't have been. Dustin Johnson loses a major maybe over it. And by the way, you were in a bunker, and that was in the rules since before the tournament started. You lose some strokes. That's the legitimacy of it. So I get it. I'm not even against what you just said. I'm just saying when there is going to be someone there to say gotcha, not really gotcha, it's just the rule. The gotcha is the DQ. But when someone is going to say this is the real score, you didn't put it, you're out. I think it was Xander who said it was like probably a little bit of a harsh penalty when it can only really be a mistake. You can't really cheat that. So maybe it's a 2-stroke penalty and move on with your weekend. And the cool part is that's like we always talk about how much we love the PGA and the underdog story and the comeback. Now it's Jordan Spieth. It's not going to be an underdog story, but the point of, and that's after he had a 2-stroke penalty the other day to then battle his way back in and get to the top on Sunday and win the tournament. Cool story to go with a cool tournament and win and all that. Like, it really would be versus he's DQ'd. By the way, he took it pretty well. He tweeted out after the round on Sunday, hey, Hideki, congrats. Make sure you turn in your scorecard and sign it correctly. He still had a little lighthearted fun with it on his own account.
That was funny.
But I mean, for the rest of it, it is what it is. And to the point of people kept saying this, if it wasn't Jordan Spieth, we wouldn't talk about it. It's all the time. I think this one truly was. Yes, it was amplified because it's Jordan Spieth and the weekend and the way it is right now in the world of golf with ratings and all this bullshit. I get it. But I honestly think people are tired of that kind of stuff. Like, it could be anybody is their point, and getting DQ'd is a little bit much for a spot you really can't cheat. Like, you would never get away with it. So why would you ever sign it wrong in that scenario?
Everything you say makes sense. Yeah. Everything it says makes 100% sense. I'm just being the nostalgic guy here. And
I don't hate it. Yeah.
I like that part of the
last
game.
Week that you,
go ahead. My bad. Go ahead.
Oh my God. Anything else from last week you want to talk about before we move on to Listener League?
Yeah. Okay. A little epilogue for the story I just told. So 6 months after I moved back here, I get a call from a couple of friends down the road, and my best friend was shot and murdered in a car, going out. Father of 6. It was a shot and kill with my best friend down there. Basically, he can't drive, so he had a ride from somebody. He was sitting in the back seat. Luckily, the people in the front didn't get shot. It was a case of mistaken identity. These gangbangers thought my boy was somebody else. that they had beef with, and they just got out of the car and just unloaded. And so basically, I would have been driving that car because I drove him everywhere. I was basically his escort because he doesn't drive, and back then I barely worked. You know what I'm saying? So I was always free. So in a somewhat of a sense, golf maybe saved my life. Maybe I wouldn't have been there if I didn't cheat in that, and I didn't move away from the bad situation I was in. But that's enough of that. I love that part of the game really resonates with me. And that's the only reason why I want to keep that rule. Let's move on. Let's get up to, first off, we had for our listener league, our five man last week. Did the guy who was in the YouTube win?
Yeah, first YouTube winner to get their win.
First YouTube winner. So who was it? I forget.
I think it was A-Bone 918 or something. A-Bone 12, A-Bone 8.
That's right.
We added them.
Right.
They're in. They're happy, but they got the job done, and they're into the Tournament of Champions now based on that win.
So A-Bone is definitely in our Tournament of Champions. All he had to do was pick the winner in our comment section of the YouTube page. We do this every single week, and we have a winner this week. Nobody picked Decky, but we did have somebody, if I can find it, we did have somebody pick Willie Z, who came in second. His name is Murph2384. So Murph 2384, you will be going against Tambo, myself, and D'Lo 8889, who won our listener league this past week. So D'Lo, which is my nickname for my college roommate back in the day. Every time I hear D'Lo, I think of D'Lo Brown and that walk that D'Lo used to do back in that pimp walk that he used to do. Anyways, D'Lo 8889 was the winner. He almost had the nuts. He was, Xander finished fourth, 12%. Cantlay finished fourth, 25%. Burge finished 10th, 25%. Willie Z, 25%, finished second. Decky, 14%, finished first, of course. And Luke List, 7%, finished second. That probably would have won GBPs, right?
Oh, yeah. Would have won the Millie Maker, I know that.
Yeah. So, hell of a lineup. What'd you think, Tambo?
Yeah, well, you don't see it very often. I mean, position placement points very, very critical at events like this, but 1, T2, T2, T4, T4, and T10, that's a hell of a lineup, like you said. And just to sort of blow out the field, you see it, Bomber 78 was in second with 614 versus 638.50.5, I should say. And after that, it's 583, 581, drop off to 569. Nice. Like, you see this stuff where this is just a complete outlier score. So shout out to D'Lo 8889. I think you got to put some numbers, Kenny, after your name. Like we talked about A-Bone 18 or whatever it was. You got 8889. We got Bomber 78, Samson 24, Yuli 27. The leaderboard just littered with guys and girls with numbers after their screen name. But yeah, D'Lo 8889. We will see you in the 4-man this week, and maybe you can take it down and get in there. But you're in the Tournament of Champions either way. We'll see if the winner of the Willie Z pick can get in there this week.
All right. So let's get to this week. The PGA Tour heads to Mexico for the Mexico Open from Vedante Vallarta. VV, I'm going to call it that. It's a 7,500-yard par 71 with 4 par 5s, 5 par 3s, and a drivable par 4. This Greg Norman designed course should be a scoring paradise as long as the wind doesn't get too bad. 2 years ago, even on a day with 30-mile-per-hour gusts, a couple of golfers shot 63. Locals say the wind picks up daily around 2 to 3 p.m. This could be some useful info, especially for first-round leader bets this week. If the wind is light, expect the winning score to be in the low 20s, minus 20s. The wind picks up, winning score should still be in the high teens. That's what we've seen so far. The tour recently plays another Norman course every year at TPC San Antonio. This course bit different than that course, even though both are Norman designs. From what I've seen, courses that could compare, Corrales, Cocoa Beach. The big question of last year was to Rahm or not to Rahm. In that situation, I played as much Rahm as I could due to his game being like head and shoulders above everybody else. This year, of course, it's whether to Finau or not Finau. In my opinion, I'm sure Tambo's going to give his take here in a minute, but in my opinion, Finau's not in the level of Rahm. So, like, if you wanted to fade in cash or GPPs, I don't think it would be a horrible play, especially if it's going to be 40-45% owned. If I'm in the wrong about this ownership number and he's like 20 to 25, well, then you might have to rethink this, but I do not think that is going to be the case this week. Now let's get to the course. Off the tee, golfers going to see large, wide open fairways without that much trouble surrounding them outside of water. This and the length of the course should lead to this being a bomber's paradise. 2 years ago, we saw 7 golfers in the top 10 that were high up in driving distance for the week. Last year, 9 of the top 10 were very high in driving distance for the week. On approach shots, golfers are going to see above average size greens with water and sand surrounding the greens. There is a good amount of water on this course. Even though it's on the ocean, there's not many oceanfront courses. It's all like inland lakes and little ponds and stuff like that. The green regulation will be decided by the wind. If the wind is light, golfers are going to have target practice onto these slow past paddle greens, 11 or less on the stim meter, which aren't normally rock hard at all. Now, if it's windy, maybe up your around the green play in your model a little bit. But, of course, the weather is going to be the main defense of this course. Basically, in my opinion, what you need to look at for golfers, length off the tee, solid long iron play, as there are more shots over 200 yards here than any other course on tour. Putting usually evens out on past paddle between good and bad putters. So ball striking length, birdie makers. That's what I'm looking for this week. That's how I'm going about it. Tambo, what are you looking for in golfers?
Everything that you said, pretty much. The the stuff I will say, though, is we're going to look at this from a different perspective. I think there will be a little bit of a layoff after last week at the Genesis, DFS players coming over to this event where you've got guys like Emiliano Grillo at 11,100, and eventually it's just going to get down to, I'll play this guy. Tony's already going to be 40% or 35% and up, whatever it ends up being. So one note I will say, Kenny, that ties into this, I was trying to tie like some sort of nugget into it. The setup here, I'm not sure if you saw, very dynamic pricing. This week, they brought in the 5K range. So you can see, and it's also the least amount of 7K golfers I've ever seen, only 18 for the entire week, considering the field size. And then other angle of it that we'll talk more when we get into the tiers in a second, but Tony Finau is the reason they brought it in this way. He's down to 5-1 in some places. I know it started higher and all that, but like you mentioned, so they didn't actually, they brought in the low end to make that make sense. They didn't actually bump the high end beyond what we normally see. We'll see 11,800 plenty of weeks. They kept Tony at 12. It's not like they made him 12.5 or 13 to make this make sense. So that is another interesting just nugget I am taking into consideration, because I think that's just going to be a natural sense that people are like, oh shit, I can play 5K and 6K guys, like a lot of 5K and upper 5K guys or really low 6K guys, because that forced better players into that range. And you may not even need that here, because we get away with it all the time playing Scheffler at 11.8 and all 7K, low 7K guys. You could do that. You can leave money on the table. Like, there's a ton of different ways to attack it. So I like it better that they brought this in. I've been lobbying this for a little while now. I just thought it was funny they didn't actually attach the front end piece to it that kind of makes it all make sense. They just left Tony at similar standard pricing and dropped it down from there and gave us the bottom range. So everything you talked about with the stats is fine. Obviously, knowing it's a 2-year sample size was the other thing I was going to say at this course. So I think, like, again, Finau, Patrick Rogers, Cam Champ, Brandon Wu, boom, build your lineups. You got those 4 guys. They do well here every year, but it's 2 years. People, Brandon Wu does really well here. Yeah, he's played here twice, and he did well both those times. Doesn't mean shit for year 3. So we'll see how it goes. It's awesome. It's helpful, but it's 2-year sample size. So just keep that in mind as well.
All right, let's get to these tiers. Why don't you go ahead and start in this 10K and up range? How are you playing Finau? How are you playing Finau? If not, how are you going about it?
I like this, actually, because I found it out right now. You made me think of it. Earlier today, I did the first look on the Ship It Nation YouTube station with Degenerate75. And with Emiliano Grillo at 11-1, if you turn the L's and the O's in Emiliano Grillo into numbers, 1s and 0s, you can spell his price tag of 11,100. But you just gave me another one because you said to Tony or not to Tony. And in Finau, you said, but if you take the word Tony and just scramble it up multiple ways, Tony not to Tony is right there in his name. So he got to make a decision here, like you said. But I will say this, with Tony Finau at 12,000, easily playable, his ownership will get out of hand to where people say it's an easy fade, because now it's a cut event. He did like his putting lately, his toe putt, all this different stuff people are going to talk about. It's really hard if he's 35 to say I want to lock him or play 80%, because I just think there is other guys, there's a chance balance builds could get there, or different angles of approach, like I talked about with roster construction. But there's also, because of this dynamic pricing, a ton of ways that you can play Tony Finau around the field, 30 to 40%, and just build all those lineups completely different than the rest of the field. There's a ton of ways, more than usual, to get different with a 40% owned golfer if you even have him at that. So I would not cross him off completely. Obviously, he crushes here. It's not just here in this course and this time, anything to do with that. It's also the field strength. He's just better than a lot of these guys in the field. Doesn't mean it will happen every year. No, I'm just saying that is, people never really classify this as a thing, and we'll talk about it more throughout. I think that's part of the edge at events like this, is knowing what guys do what in certain strength of fields. And this is obviously one of the weakest fields we'll see. And so, yeah, Tony is head and shoulders above when you get 4 rounds at a course like this. So Tony's in. I think Hojgaard gets some love at 10-7 because I don't think people are very happy about Griot at 11-100. They're not going to want to go there probably, even though he came 5th here last year. So maybe later in the week people get to that. You usually like Thunderbear, so I'll let you talk about him. And then Dietrich is kind of interesting too at 10-1, where even if you started with him and just said he's the guy to beat the guys up top, you could build a nice, structured, balanced lineup, even though you're still starting with a 5-figure guy, with a guy like Dietrich. You could do it with Olsen too. Go ahead.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm thinking of fading Tony. I'm thinking of not using him this week just because I don't think he's not Rahm. The difference in skill level between Rahm and the rest of the field last year made me want to play as much Rahm as possible. I do not see that type of gap between Tony and the rest of the field. Yeah, Tony's great. He is the best golfer in this field, but that gap is not as big. If he's off by a smidgen, he could miss the fucking cut at this event. Right? And you wouldn't think that from Rahm, but you think that's definitely still on the table for Tony. At least that's the way I think when it comes down to it. So for me, if he's 40-45% owned, probably not. If he's under 30% owned, then maybe I think about it, right? Because then you could be 50% Tony and be double the field, and you still have 50% of your lineups to play in another style. But I do like Thorbjorn. Any guy. I've definitely been as fucked up as he has, but I've never pissed in the middle of playing. But, like, that's my type of guy, right? I mean, any guy who gets that shit-faced and he, pulls out his knob and just pees on a stewardess, I mean, not the best thing to happen, but I can't, say I've never done real stupid shit while I was drinking before in my life either. But he took the punishment. He was suspended from the DP World Tour. He came back, got his shit together. And in his last appearance, in the last appearance on the DP World Tour last month, he got a W. In his last 3 appearances over there has been 8th, 21st, and 1st. The big thing about Thunderbear is the biggest strength that he has is his long irons. He has he's second in this field in proximity from 200 plus, and he does have 50 plus rounds. On the PGA Tour where these numbers are available. So I do like him. He is the best long iron hitter in this field, or in the 10K range. And if you include 175 to 200, since, he is not short off the tee, he's the best long iron player of anybody in the 10K range, including Tony Finau. So I think he's going to be single digit owned. I don't see people playing a 10,000 whatever Thorbjorn Olesen. I think he can make a nice pivot play. I like him in GPPs. All right, so let's move on to this 9K range. I got a couple of my cash game cornerstones here. First, I'm going to go Jaeger. Long off the tee, high ball flight, played well here in the past, always makes the cut. He had his best finish a couple times out. He finally got a top 5. He finished 3rd. So that's sort of what I was waiting for. Because I always talk shit about Jaeger because he had another top 5. Finally got one. You could see the games there. This course should suit perfect for him. I like him as my first cash game cornerstone. My second cash game cornerstone is going to be Mr. Pendrith, your Canadian brethren, Tambo, just underneath him at $8,600. Again, low, high ball flight. Comes in, what is he? Second in my model. Approach game strong. Really, really good on long par 4s. Long off the tee. Long irons, great. Love Pendrith this week. If you're going to go different in this range, I don't know. I like Hubbard and I like Fox. Hubbard does not sort of imitate the golfers that people are going to be looking for this week. So in that mold, I hope that his ownership is down because we saw that he could play on long courses. Doesn't really affect him, even though he's short. A couple weeks ago at the Farmers, at Torrey, the longest course on the PGA Tour, he finished 20th with a way better field than what we're seeing now. Also, he's a proficient birdie maker. I like Hubbard, and I like Ryan Fox again. Long off the tee. Again, long off the tee. Lots of birdies. He gets a ton of birdies. Well above average with his long iron play. Really, really good on long par fours. Tamo.
Yeah, we're going to see some course history versus recent form battles here, right? Because obviously we're talking about the guys I was just teasing about earlier, but you mentioned a couple of them. Like if you go Brandon Wu, he's coming in off a miscut, a 47th and a miscut, but he's come second and third here the last 2 years. So which is it, right? We're going to see that one. Patrick Rogers, pretty good results here. Top 10s the last 2 years, but then you see him coming in off a 79th and a miscut. So interesting to see where the field goes, but I mean, the guys up top for sure, Mitchell and Jaeger, those two stood out to me. You mentioned my Canadian guy, Hendrith. I think those were three that stood out right away. Rio, we've been talking about this guy at multiple events, and last event, he got in as the last guy on like the last day, right before the tournament started, so we couldn't play him until Showdown. He's a guy that you could go to here. He ended up missing the cut at that event, but just looking back now, he, talent-wise, I think he's fine, and I actually like your Mark Hubbard call. So that was the one I wanted to talk about. I mean, again, 18th here last year. I don't know if people just think he doesn't fit it or what, but I don't mind him in this field. I like that he's not priced at a price that people would use. Like if he was 880, 100, more people would be talking about him than when he's at 9K. And because of that, I think that's an option there. Also, Kenny, I think from a roster construction perspective, more people will land on Mitchell, Jaeger, Rogers, Pendrith, the guys up top, versus these guys down low. So you mentioned like Ryan Fox or something like that. If you do want to go different in this 9K range, I think it is with these guys at the bottom.
Sam, why don't we go to the 8K range for you?
If that's all you said, I should have just kept it rolling. But my bad. I thought you were saying something else. Okay. First off, Davis Thompson. And I brought this up earlier today too. I will use it now to note it. Mayo is away on vacation still. So this Wednesday, myself and Degenerate75 will be doing our normal, the in-studio show, just not in studio. So we'll go through it. We're going to build a Mayo special, and it will most certainly include Davis Thompson because that's his boy. So Davis Thompson here stands out right off the top. Shout out to our guy Baroff, again, for filling in last week. His boy, Jake Knapp, is here at 8,700. I even bet him. I think he bet him at 35-1. So obviously feeling pretty good about him. I think that's just a telltale sign of the talent level that a guy like him has, the course setup, what could fit. So don't hate the Jake Knapp call. Going down, though, this guy's at the bottom. Michael Kim will make the Mayo special. Obviously, if you guys didn't check that out, go to the Mayo right here on the Mayo Media Network. You can find that show that they did together. It was really insightful from Michael Kim, actually just letting it all out and talking through sort of everything that goes on tour, different courses, putting greens, all the stuff that these pros think about. So I thought it was really solid. He'll be in there. McNeely, just 8,100. But these guys at the bottom, Kenny, it's hard to sort through them, but they can make birdies. Like you could see Justin Suh. It wouldn't surprise me. McNeely, Eckroat, those guys. So I'll see where it shakes out as the week goes on, but just early on, some of these guys up top, like Knapp, Gim, Michael Kim, those are the guys sort of shooting off the page at first glance.
Third cash game cornerstones, Davis Thompson. What is he, like 12th in his field in proximity for 200 plus. Top 5 in birdies or better gained. Inside the top 35 in driving distance. Strokes gained par 3. Par 4 efficiency from 450 to 500 yards. First, and then what is he? 16th in tee to green. Second in strokes gained total. Give me Davis Thompson as my third cash game cornerstone. Jake Knapp seems like he's getting a lot of push. If he becomes super high owned, I could definitely see fading him this week. If he's like 15 to 20%, in the top 5 highest owned in the field, I could be like, in this type of field, anybody who's not an elite golfer near the top, who is top 5, top 10 owned, has a valid reason to be faded. And I think that he might be one of them for me, just because from what I've seen so far, not the best of par 3s, not the best with his long irons. Again, we haven't seen him that much. I know that he's super talented. He had 10 top 10s on the Korn Ferry Tour last year. The guy's going to be fucking good. But a disappointment in his career. I know he's been playing well, but if he's going to have a shit ton of ownership, I could see getting off of him this week. My favorite GPP play is Justin Suh here down in this area. Again, long iron prowess, tons of birdies. Second in birdies are better gained in this field in the last 50 rounds. He's not short off the tee, crushes par 3s, really puts his ass off. So I'm a big fan of Suh. This week, he is my favorite GPP play in that 8K range. Other guys I'll look at, Eckroat, Champ, Gim, I'll look at him. I'm not sure whether I'm playing, but I'm definitely playing Justin Suh. Let's go to the 7K range. My final cash game cornerstone is going to be down at the bottom. It's going to be Sam Stevens at $7,100. Anytime like you see, for some reason, Sam Stevens, driver heavy course, I feel like he's a must play. So if he's going to be a must play at that cheap to fill out the rest of my lineup, that's how I'm going to go about it. I like Sam Stevens. He has a top 10 and a top 20 here when they played this course on the Korn Ferry Tour prior to this being a PGA Tour event. So I am a fan of Mr. Stevens. He is going to be my final cash game cornerstone. Again, tons of birdies. Pretty good from over 200 yards. Tee to green, he's strong. Long par fours, top 10 in this field in proximity from 450 to 500 yards. So my cash game cornerstones this week, they are going to be Stephen Yeager at $9,800. Pendrith at $9,600. Davis Thompson, $8,900. Sam Stevens, $7,100. I think it should leave like 14,700, 14,800 to fill out the rest of your lineup. Other guys that do like Jonathan Vegas, I think he's a little bit too cheap. He's been playing pretty well, at least from the eye test. When we've actually seen him, he's been on some featured groups on ESPN Plus and stuff like that. From the eye test, I think his game looks pretty fucking good. I like him. I like his price. He's long enough off the tee. So I like him. Vincent Norman, another guy who won, a few months ago, long off the tee, that I can get behind at this rate. Also good from like not only long, but good from like 175 to 200, above average from 200 plus. Really good on long par fours, just like Jonathan Vegas. Those are the guys. And Nate Lashley, he's going to be the stat guy when it comes down to it in the 7K range. 13th in proximity from 200 plus, tons of birdies. Really good from 175 to 200. Really good on par threes. Remember, there's 5 par threes at this course. So I could play a little bit of Lashley too. Tama, what about you?
Yeah, a lot of guys in this range, and it's crazy because it's only 18 guys, but it just depends on what you're doing with the ones up above. And if, like I said, if you're going Tony or some of those big dogs, you're sort of skipping over that 9K range and dropping down, and I'll probably end up there more. So I think I'll just be in this range. But S.H. Kim, right off the top at 7,900, I think he fits it well. You look back, look at the long irons lately, anything birdies are better, all that stuff, he's actually been doing quite well. So 7,900, Toasty, 20, right here at 7,800, I could go to him. Johnny Vegas, who you mentioned. Another guy that'll make the Mayo special for sure is the play at 7,400, Carson Young, right there. So the good C Young, they'll say. Some might say Carson Young, you get in on the action there. And then don't hate your Sam Stevens call down at the bottom either. I think the interesting range is like the sort of Bjork, Stallings, Spawn, Sig, Gotterup. Any of those guys stand out for you there? Novak and Lashley would be 2 others that I could see here. But was there anybody in those other dudes that I mentioned that you liked?
Novak's Stallings, definitely.
Spawn,
Yeah, Novak's definitely somebody I'll be taking a peek at this week. He came, what did he finish? Like top 10 last time he was out? Any guy who finished top 10 in the field like that, I'm going to look at it $7,000, no doubt about it.
Yeah, anybody, Bjork, Stallings, Spawn, Sig, or Gotterup, that range just looks overlooked here.
Yeah, I mean, Stallings looks like somebody I can get behind, but I mean, yeah, we'll see how I ended up doing it. If I'm going to play somebody, I'm going to play Novak and Stevens, and Spawn. And Stallings. Let's get Spawn, that long iron prowess.
Stallings you like, yeah. So
that long iron prowess, I think you can get behind. All right. 6K range. I mean, there's a couple up here that we talk. I mean, Joseph Bramlett played well here last year. Hits the ball high, hits the ball long. What you sort of want. Sammy Valimaki, another guy who's not the longest guy, but he's above average. Well above average with his lengths, above average with his long irons. I just like saying his name. So I'll play him this week. Here you go. Another long guy that you can play out here. Hits the ball. Gives it a good poke. Pretty solid tee to green play. Davis Riley played well last year. I didn't realize how long Riley was. He's actually not as short as I thought. And he gets a lot of birdies. I think he can make a play at him at 6,500. Burgoon is another guy that I would play again. Over his career, we haven't seen much of him here recently, but throughout his career, I remember rostering him in 2015. The one thing he's always been good at was his longer irons. So you can throw Burgoon down there. What about you, Tam? Who do you see in the 6K range?
Not a lot that I love out loud, just because I will say this is where it first starts to show for me, like what I talked about earlier. You're getting, okay, let me just check this while we're on here live. Let's go through it real quick. There is 89 guys from 6,900 down to 5,000, and there's a chance you don't need any of them. There's a chance you need them. I'm not saying that, but my point is more, I was talking about this earlier today, where people, I got to get 3% of Valimaki. I heard a good thing about him. Higo, if he gets hot, man, he could do it. Give me 3% of that guy. Parker Cootie or Del Soler, like these guys, they'll start to make their stands, and they won't actually make any stands. They'll just mix and match pieces of all of these, which, while they're not going to be high enough owned for you or me or anybody else to care, what I'm saying is you're taking a majority of roster construction and moving it over to more stars and scrubs, because people have tons of names down here they can get behind. It'll help them to fit Tony, and then those builds come into play. You can get different by going to multiple 9Ks or even use some of those 10K guys, but I think there is a chance here too, Kenny. You could just see like a balanced build in that upper 6 where I'm about to go to that upper top range and just not need to go below this. So if you want to talk about guys I like here, you mentioned it, but Tyler Duncan is one I saw. You mentioned Bramlett. I like Harry Hall right there at 6,800 stands out. And then Mayo's guy Higo does stand out a little bit. If you want to take a shot at him, can make some birdies. Probably better showdown play, but just to note it. So that's sort of where I'm at. After that, you can make cases for different guys, but like there's nobody in 6,400 down to 6,000 that I have high conviction on or care that much that I'm like, well, you got to get him. Maybe Carl Jan, however you want to say his name, but makes birdies in bunches. We've seen it happen. So he would be somewhat interesting at 6,200, but that'd be a guy I'd be taking a stand on. After that, I got nobody here really that stands out to me.
I got 3 guys in the 5K range. Okay. First one, it's going to be MJ Duffy over at $5,800. Good long irons, makes a ton of birdies. At that price, I will take the risk. Next, it's going to be Callum Tarrant at 5,600. Again, long off the tee. Really good with his long irons. Top 10 in par 4 efficiency from 450 to 500 yards. He's actually 12th in strokes gained tee to green in this field, and he's in the last 50 rounds. So yeah, I'm gonna play Callum Tarrant if he's 12th in this field in strokes gained tee to green, and he's $5,600. Yeah, give me some hit. I know he's 112th in putting, but whatever. And then my last guy probably going to be I don't even know, Ben Taylor. If I have to go down low, was he top 10 last year? That's good enough for me at 5,100. If I'm going to play anybody down this low, I don't even know if I am. Oh, I'm about to sneeze. Go ahead, Tambo.
Yeah, just that's the line you said. That's what made it funny. It's like, if I have to choose someone, you don't. That's the good news. And I know you're just saying that, but my point is that's where I think people struggle a little bit. They sit there and say, well, but if I go to this guy, I can make all this work. But you still need 6 things to go your way. So I'm not saying don't do it. Just saying why I think it's a little bit interesting that sort of the pricing forces these thoughts and will definitely force some of those builds. I will say the standard Troy Merritt flowchart is definitely in effect. Is Troy Merritt in the field? Yes. Is he extremely cheap? In this case, the cheapest I've ever seen him, $5,900. And is it probably going to be a birdie fest? Most likely, yes. So there you go. Troy Merritt would be in play at $5,900. After that, Panda, Norman Zhang. He's down there at $5,800.
Your boy.
He can bomb it out there. He's been doing things lately, though. He's been showing up on leaderboards, winning on the Corn Ferry Tour before, coming over, all that stuff. CT Pan, David Lipsky. At least there is a couple names down here. Callum Tarrant, who you mentioned. That would sort of round it out, though. And again, not saying I'm going to all those, but that's like 4 or 5 guys. If I was considering this range for that portion of my builds, that's where I would be headed with those guys that I know, feel a little bit better about, and then go from there. There may be a few others that I swap in or swap out, but we'll have you covered for all that and more over on the Mayo Show on Wednesday as well.
Tambo, go for your bets, brother.
I got nothing. I did not bet anything yet. What I was waiting on was tee times. I do want to see, like you said, one thing for sure, the first round leader, and also too, because I don't think much is going to change. Like Tony is the favorite. Whoever people bet, yeah, they're going to get bet down some, but it's not like I love those numbers. I wasn't rushing this morning. Just put it this way. Shout out to my guy Baroff last time, but I wasn't rushing to bet Jake Knapp at 35-1 with him. I get it, but it just wasn't for me. So, like you said, if his ownership gets up there, hashtag blame Baroff. We can start that hashtag out there and get it rolling, but I'm not as in on that. I'm going to wait and see. I'm going to bet some first round leaders. Like you said, the wind does pick up typically around lunchtime in Mexico. So I think that's fine at this course. So you can do that, but I have nothing as far as that's concerned. What do you got?
Pendrith, 33-1, 5 places. Davis Thompson, 35-1, 5 places. Vegas, 66-1, 5 places. Alejandro Tosti, I forgot to mention him earlier. I do like Tosti a lot. Another guy, long off the tee, really good with his long irons, really good on long par 5s, long par 4s, 450 to 500. There's a shit ton of those this week. So I will be using him. I'll also be betting him at 16-1 with 5 places each way. Carson Young, 90 to 1, 5 places each way. So those are what I got so far. Vegas, Toasty, Young, Pendrith, Davis Thompson. 1 and done for me will be Jaeger.
And I'll just use Finau.
I'm going to use Finau in my American and international one too. So yes.
I'm just not going to overthink it. Like, again, I'm not saying he's going to come first or second. It's 2 results, all that. I'm just going to take what should be. I think he's actually, I think you make more if you bet on him to miss the cut than you do for him to win. Like, it's just get him through, see what he does over the weekend, and go there. That's kind of how I'm guessing it's going to go. We'll see, though, how it plays out. But so far, I'm 1 and done. Not great. Leo, I did not have anything last week. I had a miscut. So how are you doing 1 and done so far?
Not great. But last week, I think the best. Yeah, not great. Not great. Anything else? We're good to go?
No, I was going to say Papa Tambo is just crushing me right now. Last I checked, he was in like 200th place. So, that's the way it goes, though, man. It's fun. It's definitely the best, and it's not over or anything. We're just getting started, so it's not a big deal. I'm just saying it is crazy how it goes. And funny, like the quick Papa Tambo story, he had Colin Morikawa the week where he was, I think he was first-round leader or almost first-round leader and then missed the cut with Morikawa. This past week, he had Homa, and Homa was sucking on day 1. Shot like a 73. He's like, oh, it sucks. I looked at it. It's over. And then Homa ends up finishing T16 in a field with a better, like a decent prize pool. So it's still solid money. So just the way it goes on these 1 and dones. But it's a lot of fun throughout the season, man. It's the best value, really, that you can get for the money. You just play it all season long. Have a chance at 80 grand US. I mean, that's a lot. I'm Canadian. 80 US. That's a lot of money. 100K plus. Money. Yeah. All
right. Well, you can find me on Twitter on X at KendoVT. You can find my article every week on GupsCorner.com. They've been killing it over there. They got the new interface on the tools and all. It looks great. The site looks amazing. Super easy to use. Use promo code Kenny. Save yourself 30% on a sub to Gups Corner.
Find me on X at ToeTag and Tambo. The tidbits are back. Post them on Wednesdays. Those are free. Just go on there and get that. And then, of course, ShipItNation.com, sponsor of the show. Just had the merger last week with Degenerate75, his entire community. Huge week. You can go check it out on X at ShipItNation. Free to go over there. Check that out. The pinned post at the top shows over 500,000 winnings for the community. Hoop had some, I had some, but a lot of members within that thread. You'll see. Get over there now. You can use the promo code DEGEN15, DEGEN15. Gets you 15% off any package that you choose, and that discount stays with you. It's not first payment only. Get all 8 of the major sports that we cover: projections, ownership, tools, rankings, content, Discord, community, all of that. Check it out. ShipItNation.com. DEGEN15 is the code.
Sounds good. We're in Mexico. Let's hope and pray that all of our golfers don't drink the water. Let's win some motherfucking money. Degen Nation.
I've been getting dirty money, Jordan Belfort. Stacking penny stocks while I'm flipping these birds. Sipping on Ciroc, trip 'em up with the words.